cages or wings? Which do you prefer? Ask the birds. Fear or love, baby, don't say the answer. Actions speak louder than cages or wings. Which do you prefer? Ask the birds. Fear or love, baby, don't say the answer. Actions speak louder than they speak louder than actions speak louder than.
Hello and welcome to Keen Company. We're a theater company in New York City that creates theater that champions identification and connection through stories about the decisive moments that change us. I'm Jonathan Silverstein, the artistic director, and I'm thrilled you've joined us for tonight's After Hours with our guest, Jonathan McCrory. I'd like to start tonight's event with a land acknowledgement. We do this to recognize the long history of the territory where we live and work and its significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live here, and to demonstrate our commitment to addressing the legacy of colonialism in our work and practices. I am speaking to you today from Brooklyn, which is the traditional land of the Munsee Lenape people. Since our activities tonight are shared digitally to the internet, we'd also like to acknowledge and consider the legacy of colonialization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We are using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. We invite you to join us in acknowledging this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good use of this time and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. We plan to build on this practice in thoughtful and actionable ways so as better to engage with Indigenous peoples and Indigenous stories. Okay, I'd like to welcome aboard my fellow team members, Ashley and Billy.
You just don't know what to call us, huh?
We're back!
Well, you know, after plucky Keen cohorts, I didn't know if I could use that again, or...
Right.
No, that's our new trademark.
Uh-huh.
We're back! Happy
back.
After Hours.
It
Feels great to be back.
Feels
I
like
missed you guys last Monday because we had Sorry Wrong Number. But it's good to be back with the gang, chatting theater.
Absolutely.
Now, I did see you all earlier today. The suspense is broken. We, of course, had a team meeting. It's a Monday. But
Right.
I
We
didn't
weren't
get to
chatting
see you.
theater, though, before. We were chatting, taxes and...
Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm very excited for tonight's guest. I think we can bring him on if we're ready to go, right?
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
Amazing. Well, let's
I've
do
definitely
it.
been
So, all right. So please welcome the artistic director of the National Black Theater, among several other fantastic projects, the one and only Jonathan McCrory.
Yay!
Whoa!
Welcome.
Hello.
So, I'm going to give you just a quick introduction for everyone watching at home. Jonathan McCrory is an Obie Award-winning and Audelco nominated Harlem-based artist who has served as artistic director at Dr. Barbara Ann Tier's National Black Theater since 2012. Throughout his career, Jonathan has worked professionally as a director, producer, and actor. And he has so many credits. I don't think we could list them all right here. Or I'd be...
We only have an hour.
But I first got to know Jonathan, first of all, through our mutual friend, Shisa Hutchinson, when we produced her play Surely Goodness and Mercy. And I don't know if I think I'm quoting her pretty correctly when she said to me, "You've got to speak with Jonathan. He is the mayor of Black Theater."
That's a great title.
Oh God.
But subsequently, over the summer, when I was participating in some of the Broadway advocacy coalitions workshops, I heard Jonathan speak. And honestly, Jonathan, you inspired me and made me think in such beautiful ways and talked so inclusively about the work ahead. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you, and you are very inspiring. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, well, I mean, the inspiration's mutual, deeply appreciated. Chisa is hilarious. I mean, I would say, not to disqualify. I think that I hold a very beautiful space as far as Black theater. The whole idea of authority kind of makes me kind of cringe a little bit. So I like to say I could be the doula, one of the doulas of Black theater, like
Love that.
one of the doulas of it, but wouldn't necessarily call myself the mayor of. It means that someone voted me in. I don't think that many people voted me.
I kind of think what she meant was the doula in the way that everyone knows you, and in the way that the sort of like mayor walks down the street and says hello to everyone, that everyone knows who you are.
Well, it feels very blessed to be in that place after multiple years of doing this. Right, you shoot in the dark and try to create as much space of meaning as possible, and you never know. You just never know if that space of meaning that you crafted, that you spend so much time toiling and doing, if it's actually going to pay off or benefit or do something in the world. And then you have that moment of realization of like, this soil I've been tilling, these seeds I've been planting are bearing some kind of fruit, some kind of recognition. And it's a beautiful time to start to be able to smell those elements without it always coming from you.
Were you always a theater kid? Were you a little kid and you were like, oh, I'm going to be in the arts. I'm going to perform. I'm going to do theater. No.
All by coincidence. So
really?
Yeah. So I grew up with ADD, dyslexia, and then another form of mental, like a disability. And when I got tested, they kind of told my parents, if I'm reading the story correctly, that they should expect for me not be able to go to college because I wouldn't be able to keep up with the rigor of college, and that they should basically just think of me as being homeschooled. Like, this is not, like, I'm just not gonna live up to it. And my dad, who had similar kind of things, but it was never tested or diagnosed, and I was like, nah, my son ain't gonna do that. My son's gonna. So they pulled me out of public school and put me into private school.
Okay.
I always thought I was going to be, and then I went, and it was like a Catholic private school. So I always thought I was going to be a priest. Well, my mom thought I was going to be a priest. I thought I was going to be an architect or an engineer. So my mom was like, because I was always like kind of like a spiritual gumbo yaya kind of person. So she was like, oh, you're just going to be like in the spirit of the world, da da da. And I was like, no, I like to build. Like, I love building, architecting, designing things. So I was like, I'm going to be an architect. I'm going to school for engineering. That's it. And so I was doing well. I was doing well in middle school, and time to go to high school. And you have to apply, you have to test. And I never was a good tester. And I applied for all of these private schools in DC, in the DMV area, and I got into none of them. None of them thought that I was had the capacity to keep up with that's when the disability showed its head again. And here I am going to this private school. All my friends have they know what school they're going to, they know what they're doing, and my cousin even everyone knows what they're doing. And I'm just like sitting here being like, nobody wants me, I'm the disabled one. And I'm not trying to make light of it. Actually, I don't like the word disability. I like to say I'm differently abled, but I know the history. Someone schooled me on why you should use the word disability because of the historical nature of disability. So I'm trying to reappropriate it back into my system. So I had been doing theater in my middle school, but it wasn't like, it was just like, you can hit a note, fine. You can say a line, great. Like, it was like, I'm an architect or I'm going to be an engineer. Like, y'all are not, this is not what, I do this so I can hang out with my friends. Like, you know what I mean? So someone said at the hour, he does these musicals and these things in middle school. Why does he apply for Duke Ellington School of the Arts? Now, Duke Ellington School of the Arts is one of the oldest black arts high schools in the country, and was founded by two amazing ancestors, Mike Malone and Peggy Cooper Kaferitz, and amongst others, who were trying to create a destination for young black artists in DC to be able to be trained and be able to get the skill set they need in order to excel their career in the DC area. Mm-hmm. And so I applied for the voice department. I was the last guy to apply for it, and I got in. And then they were starting this musical theater program, and I said, that sounds like My Fair Lady again. So then I applied for that, and I got in. And so I have to say, this is all by coincidence. And I think that why I like to tell that story and say it lands in, I said yes to a coincidence.
Yeah.
Is that life can abundantly unfold itself if we say yes to the coincidence of it, versus having to manipulate it or to dictate it in some kind of way. We can just say yes to the coincidence of it, and the lemons of it can generate a lot of lemonade. Like, my life is profoundly different and profoundly beautiful because of that no. Because of that no in middle school, that where I felt less than, I felt belittled, I felt not intellectually capable based off my peers. That space actually generated the space for me now to be talking to you right now as an artistic director of an institution. And I have to say that I just kind of kept on saying yes to the coincidence of it. Even going to college, I definitely didn't necessarily think I was going to like make it into or keep like Broadway wasn't my focus, right? So like this is I went to I was in a musical theater track and an arts high school, and the chair of my department says, "What do you want to be, Jonathan, when like you grow up, like adulthood, whatever that might mean?"
Yeah.
And I say that I want to run my own space in Harlem that owns their space, that's dedicated to doing black work, and be like the artistic director of it. And I said, I won't get there until I'm 40, but like that's what I want. Like that's what I want to be. He's like, that's very particular.
Wrote it down.
Yeah, wrote it. Hey, and it's one of those moments. And I also said I want to go to NYU for musical theater. Again, not that I want to be on Broadway, just because I think it helped me think, right? Like I could dance some moments, I could sing some moments, and then I act some moments. And it's just like, oh, okay, I can play with all of these different verticals of expression and not having to focus in on just one thing and be like forced to do one thing. I'd be like, oh, I can dance now, I can sing now, And I have to say the profound nature of calling that out, like, hey, I went to NYU, but lo and behold, I would when the universe said, like, the NYU thing was just like, oh, that was just like coincidence, like I would say that then make it in. But when the universe, I was sitting across from the CEO of the National Black Theater, and she says, what if I make you our creative director of our creative, like, what if you're that? Because everyone believes in you, but no one's going to invest in you, right? And I'm just like, but I'm 25. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't make sense. No logical. Like, this doesn't feel logical. But she's like, no, it makes total logic. You have the skill set. You have the desire. You have the passion. You have I'm like, but this comes to a 40-year-old. And then you have a question around your small me, because the small me says I'm not adequate. The small me says everything that would equate to the reason why I'm not the one. While the universe is saying in front of my face that, hey, you asked for this. You summoned it into being. Why aren't you saying yes to it? And I had to say yes on some level, because if I did not say yes, I was telling the universe my tongue was confused. I was telling the universe that what I say doesn't actually mean that I really want it. And that I will keep on saying what I want, but please don't listen to me. And please don't, like, if I say I want $1 million, don't give me $1 million, because I'm not getting that. I don't know what, when you tell me what it means to actually earn $1 million or own $1 million or have $1 million, I won't want it. Because there's so many pathways to get to it. You didn't ask that question. I totally went on a tangent.
No, I love it.
I'm gonna stop.
I loved it. I think there's also like some lovely poetic irony about starting with this idea of like a preacher or pastor and an architect. Like that is sort of the idea of like building and inspiring is sort of also where you ended up in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, on some level, my mom was correct, right?
Yeah.
On some level,
well, moms are always
right. Mom's always correct. Like,
sure.
and I love my mom dearly, but the mom's always correct. Like I've been able, and I found the right home for me.
Yeah.
I was crafted for my DNA. Right. We all have a path of synergetic like friction, and I found the institution and the space that was part of my synergetic like convergence, right? It's a space that's deeply spiritual and a space that is and a space that can architect, right? A space that has ownership. So there's a freedom inside of the expression that can happen. And the possibility of what is now on the verge or the catalytic verge of it is like I get to lean into all those verticals in a profound, nuanced way. I get to own the space of like this nature that my mom was like really highlighting, which is that I'm a deeply enriched spiritual person that is like channeling on multiple different levels. My mom knew that from Git. And then I also get to use my hands, use my body, use my understanding of geometric shape to have a conversation about how does geometry, which is sacred, come into conversation with the friction or the reality of a set. Like all the way down to a set, to a lobby display, all the way to the actual construction of a physical space. How physical space is a part of the exploration of spiritual liberation. And how do you have a conversation with that?
I'm fascinated that you were growing up in DC, but you wanted to get to Harlem. Did you have an inherent connection with Harlem, or was it just sort of like felt like an artistic community?
So it wasn't necessarily Harlem, it was New York. And I don't know why I picked Harlem. I mean, again, it's that Freudian slip of like casting a net to the universe, because I will tell you why I said New York. I said New York because the Negro Ensemble ran and was housed in New York, and I saw that as my birthright. So at one point, the Negro Ensemble was the premier destination. It was a formidable force that had millions of dollars, had a space, had all of these accoutrements that we deserve as Black artists. All the accoutrements that our counterparts deserve also as artists, right? So it was my birthright. It was that I had it in my head that when that space was shut down, when that theater company wasn't excelling in the trajectory of many of its counterparts, my birthright was robbed as a Black artist. A space that was crafted for me was robbed. So I wanted to reinstate that. I wanted to reinstate that birthright because we had it in Ailey. You know what I mean? In my head, I was like, oh, Ailey's that for Black dancers. I don't see that in Black. Like, you know what I mean? We had these premier sites, Dance Theater Heart. We had these premier locations in New York City where ownership was a part of the conversation, not necessarily for Black theater. And here I was trying to think about, so then where do I go? Where do I go as a Black artist? Where do I go as a Black artist that is feeding? Because again, you're talking to a person who grew up in DC when DC was Chocolate City. I grew up in a very, very Black affirming identity and ethos where ownership and entrepreneurship and the ability to feed into one's community from a direct lineage line was highly important. And so when I think about this moment of what do I do and how do I navigate, I really do think about how do I transform this birthright into something that's materialized for someone else? So when I took on this position, I had already thought about like, what is my succession? Because I also knew my gift to the field, if there's anything that I give to this field, I hope, is that I build a space that somebody else wants to acquire. That I build something that someone else can walk into, explore. They potentially can burn down.
Right.
Because even in those ashes, there's possibility. So I want to create something that someone can steward. I've always been that way. And all the things that people are like, oh, you helped to do that. It's like, I want to create something. I want to leave this planet creating tangible spaces of stewardship. Not so that it's my name that's attached to it. That's not why I do it. And clearly, because my name ain't attached to all of it, right? Jonathan McCrory, It's that I really want to have a conversation around, and this is where me and Dr. Tier, the founder of MBT, are really similar, human transformation. Where does human transformation come into conversation and come into friction with our very existence today? Because the two are separate paths. Like, our nature is to be transformed. We are transforming in this moment. Our molecules are shedding and shifting in a space in which they will never return back to. However, we manipulate our nature on so many different aspects, on so many different levels, to fit an image of our desire. Like, I'll say, I want 6-pack abs. I might not physically be a body that can hold 6-pack abs. Is that okay? That might not be a part of my function on this planet. Healthy, yes. 6-pack abs, maybe not. Right? I want to be able to grow my hair out so I can have locks again. No, that might not be. Let's talk about the receding hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's so many other realities that are so real, and we don't sometimes live inside of the nature of who we are. Like, I love thinking about the caterpillar and the butterfly. The caterpillar lives in its nature. It eats. It does what it wants to do. And then it cocoons, not knowing what will happen. It cocoons. That cocooning, it transforms. That transformation turns it into something that can actually shift, like global societies, right? Like the climate can change by the flapping of a butterfly's wings, the butterfly effect. So like, if we live, I sometimes wonder if we were to reprogram ourselves to be back in our nature versus our desire, what would the world look like? And someone could challenge me and be like, "Yo, bro, we are in our nature. We just messed up humans. Like, that's just the truth." But I believe in us being bigger. I believe we construct things to live in our desire. We constructed race to live in our desire of having power. We constructed capitalism so we can know wealth. Joy can happen in this moment without any of those things. The humanness of us can show up, and we actually can have a conversation. Yet, our conditioning can disrupt our nature.
I love you talking about the butterfly effect, because I think the people we meet along the way, if we're open, bring us so many places. How did you come in contact with Dr. Tier? How did that all happen?
Wow. So, it's like amazing. Like, it's like kind of like crazy. I never got to meet her. Never got to meet her. She transitioned. She transitioned in 2008. Okay. That's when I graduated from college.
Oh boy. Okay.
And what's so interesting is that I never got to meet her physically. I should always caveat that. I should not say I never got to meet her. I never got to meet her physically. She's met me spiritually. Like, she has been one of my greatest teachers. She has guided my hand in ways in which that people who knew her intimately think that she taught me. And she has, but it's not from a physical notion or a normative notion of how we think teaching is done, right? Like, there is this very clear understanding that I have around spirit and energy that is not doctrined by religion, but is actually baked in a reality that our sonic vibration right now, the sonic vibration of who we are, is trapped in the spaces that we occupy. And if we allow ourselves to listen to those sonic vibrations, we can then record and have conversation with legacy, history, and knowledge that is present in that room. Also, that when we transition from the body, we transition into energy. Energy is flowing. And depending on how you have been able to hone, focus, transmute your own personal energy, your energy lives outside the body. You start to actually be bigger than your body.
Mm-hmm.
You start to have a conversation that expands. So, answer your question. I did just not know what your question was. So, answer your question. How did I get to meet Dr. Tier? I got to meet Dr. Tier. I'm trying to get on the point. I got to meet Dr. Tier by sitting in at MBT in our old facility. We have a meditation room.
Oh, neat.
And the meditation room was once Dr. Tier's office. When Dr. Tier transitioned, we turned that into a sacred space for us to meditate. And the theology around it is that the doctors need hospitals too. Artists are doctors. The meditation room is our hospital. So I would go in there when I first started working at MBT every day, and I would meditate, and I would just like zone in and meditate and get into the gumbo yaya and all that, and light the candle, and people and things would start talking to me. I didn't know who those things were. Things would start talking to me. I know gumbo yaya all of the wazoo. So they would start talking to me, and I would start like listening and engaging, and I would start actually doing the things of what those intuits were saying to me. And I didn't know who they were. They were these voices. I always have voices, so I was just like, please, those are just part of the voices that be following me. Like, it's a family affair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we good, whatever. And then one day, someone plays Dr. Tier's voice, and I hear it for the first time, and I'm like, oh, that's who's been talking to me. And then someone plays Tunde. Tunde is another ancestor of MBT. I'm like, oh, that's her. That's him. That's Tunde. Tunde's been talking to me. And I start to realize that I'm a vessel at this juncture. I am a conduit to complete unfinished work. I'm a conduit who gets to be a witnesser. And if I play my cards right, I can be a great witnesser. That's where my kinship comes with for James Baldwin. James Baldwin for me is the great witnesser. If you look at his essays, all 60 of them, he is witnessing life so that we can then learn for the future. So a part of my life's practice is to figure out how clear, clean, and profoundly present can I be to my witnessing apparatus. If I can get clear and clean around my witnessing apparatus, then I can have a conversation with my divineness, right? Why I was put on here, my nature. Because it does have to have a conversation about the ego death. We are consistently having to have a conversation with the ego death. You didn't ask about none of this. So, so that's where you didn't ask about none of this. You gotta stop me. Like, you can't just be like, oh, John, you just keep on talking. This is so great. Like, I'm just like, ego death. When did we start talking about ego death? Like, we talked about Dr. Tier. When did I meet Dr. Tier? I met Dr. Tier in a meditation room in my silence. I met Dr. Tier through her daughter, Sade Lithcott. I met Dr. Tier through the people that loved her and that knew her. I met Dr. Tier by touching her things. I met Dr. Tier by... That's why I was talking about the ego. I met Dr. Tier by understanding that I don't have to be... My ego, Jonathan, is actually the disservice. It's a disservice when I make it about me. And when I lean into and I humble myself to the service of the work, I actually get to meet the legacy that I get to be a contributor to. And so I didn't need to build a new space. I needed to participate in the legacy of a space that was needing my attention, that needed my hands for this moment. And when it doesn't need it anymore, I have to be willing enough, again, the ego. And I don't know if I will. I don't know if I will, to be honest. I don't know if I'll have the strength to have that ego, but I will ask that question as many times as possible. When it is time for me to leave, will I allow for the space for someone else to come in and do whatever they might do with the soil that I have tilled?
That is very well and honestly said, because I think that's a hard decision to make, or a hard place to comfortably know you're in. Now you literally speaking of sort of like the space, what is going on, y'all are in the midst of soon, or maybe right now,
no, we are in the midst of a capital redevelopment. Yeah. So, you want me to talk about the capital redevelopment?
Sure, yeah.
So National Black Theater, our founder, Dr. Barbara Antier, bought a city block. So she bought 62,000 square feet of real estate. It was the first revenue generating Black arts complex in the country, and the first I think city block to be owned by a woman of color. I believe.
Oh, wow.
It's two of those facts. I know the one fact is true. It was the first.
Okay. It's a little game. If you look
so
home,
that's the one we're gonna lean into.
Yeah.
That one. And that gave us anchoring home for 34 years to be able to do experimental, bold apparatus. And the whole premise of it was the real estate would subsidize the art. And in 2008, after her untimely actually transition, her children, Michael Lithcott and Sade Lithcott, they picked up the mantle where their mother had left it, and took on the responsibility, her Herculean responsibility of finishing their mother's vision, which was to create a 21st century state-of-the-art facility. And part of that was going to be redeveloping natural property. And as of last year, we officially have begun a process. We have, I'll say for the past 7 years, but officially last year we began a process of capital redevelopment, which will be a leveling of our property that we currently occupy, a building of a 20-story high-rise with 2 theaters being built inside of it. That's a combination of residential, cultural, some kind of other hospitality event, and then retail. Creating a cultural hub, hopefully for artists and like a cultural hub as a full tower for art creation, but creating the destination that Dr. Tier always wanted for the 21st century, for Black artists to be able to fully be able to explore innovation, rigor, failing. What does it mean to fail up? Sometimes you don't allow, particularly Black bodies, to fail and still be given more opportunities. So what does it mean to fail up? And allow for amplification. And so we have officially moved out of our historic site that we've been for 51 years, which was a feat of its own. It was we had 4 months to move out, and we got through that process. And now all eyes are really geared towards what is this new iteration going to be. I want to pause on the word new. What is the MBT 2.0 iteration going to be? What is the iteration that builds on Michael, our board chair, says it so beautifully, was the iteration that, like they do as a traditional act in the Egyptian culture, what is the act that builds on top of the pyramid, so that, like, you know what I mean, each pharaoh builds on top, so that they're building on the foundation of their legacy. And that's how we get the big pyramids that we know of today. How are we doing that similarly with this building? What parts are we keeping? What parts are we keeping? What parts are we exploring? What parts are we amplifying? So that when people come to the building, they see a manifested vision, 1. 2, they also see a continuation of a legacy.
Wow. Talk about legacy and your legacy, Jonathan. That's going to be that's humongous that you all are undertaking that at this moment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful, and it's really profound, and on so many ways it is divine timing. And that's why I say the discomfort of this moment is not something to run away from, but something to lean into. And the more and more we can lean into it, the more and more, and I'm not trying to be Pollyanna about it. I'm not trying to be like it's all guns and roses. Like, there are some challenging things ahead that we are all having to face, and we're all navigating, especially with the capital redevelopment project during quarantine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Having to figure out how to raise millions of dollars in the midst of a national pandemic. But I also just want to say this. I was talking about this a little bit earlier on another call. The wealthier are just getting wealthier in this moment. We are starting to have a more disparity in the economic gap and the middle class is struggling to survive. That just means that there's an opportunity if we can figure out as a collective ecology, as I mean arts sector, to actually dream big and dream with a bold kind of fierceness that can allow for future generations to see this as a pivotal moment for our salvation and transformation. And I don't want to be Pollyanna about salvation and transformation, but pivot. There's a pivot. The globe is, what's happening in Texas, like all of this stuff is letting us know that the world, we have an opportunity to do something for this world that has never been able to be done before. And the discomfort of it is at such a high level because it's saying, if you do not listen to me, you will be destroyed.
Yeah, that's all our organizations right now and all humans right now are going through quite a year, but you're talking about pivoting and sort of something we've talked about as our small little team about sort of the intentionality of this year and how to come back better, not just come back. And I can't imagine doing all that. And also you have this sort of tangible version of that in this kind of building that you're literally coming back. You're literally building back even stronger. I'm so excited to see it unfold.
Yeah, I mean, there's this really beautiful notion, and I think a lot of people are talking about it now. How do you fall forward?
Yeah.
Because like falling's fine, but how do you fall forward? Not fall back, not fall to the side. How do you fall forward? Going back to the simple fact that our molecules are shifting in this moment, and they'll never go back. They'll only be growing, shifting, morphing in a forward action. So if nature is doing that, why can't we accept that? And some of that has to be that the conditions in which we navigate force us to work outside of our nature. Octavia Butler has a beautiful quote that is used so often, that the only constant in this universe is change. And so then therefore God is change. That is the only constant in this universe. That means that God is change. And what ways are we fighting change, and for what reason? And how we so often get hurt because we're fighting change.
So while we're on the subject of the Capitol campaign,
yes,
let's just sort of say that someone who is listening wanted to donate. Would they just go to your website? Would they call you? If they want to drop like hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Want to donate to the Capitol campaign, they could go on the website. They also could call, and then we would connect you. But the website, there is a way to donate there. We have a Network for Good account that takes less percentage out. And it's good for both parties. So donating for our Network for Good page, donating directly to the institution through our website. Those are both different ways. And if you want to have a more long-lasting relationship with us and want to know more about it, emailing us at info@National Black Theater, or me in particular, Jonathan at National Black Theater. These are all ways in which to stay connected with us. Love to talk to you about it, and thank you for asking.
Absolutely. So you've been really, you have been really busy during quarantine. And when we talked, you were there was a lot going on. So is there still a lot going on for National Black Theater, or you, even independent of that? What's happening in 2021?
Oh gosh. I need to learn how to say no. All right, so
now you just gave us a whole rousing speech about saying yes. So
yes. To curate your yeses. Powerful. Yes. That's a powerful thing. So what's happening in 2021 from a programmatic standpoint? we are working, National Black Theater is working with the Apollo Theater right now on a couple of projects, one mainly being a piece called The Gathering, a sonic ring shout. It's something that I'm directing and curated. It's going to be when we come back, we can come back in IRL, but it is a chamber music piece it's 3 established chamber music pieces by conductors of color, centered around a very significant piece called 7 Last Words. I conceived it in concert with other commissioned works by artists like Jason Michael Webb and Leland Thompson and Toshi Regan to respond to the existing work. And it's called a ring shout, just historic knowledge around a ring shout. Ring shouts were utilized during the antebellum South, the peculiar institution of slavery, to create sacred religious space for Black bodies during slavery, to find their own sense of autonomy, liberation, and freedom. And this piece, The 7 Last Words, is the centerpiece of this evening, is around the 7 last words that 7 Black men and boys said before they were executed or murdered by the cops. And why I thought ring shout was important was because we can liberate ourselves while acknowledging the spiritual vibration of these folks. We don't have to, and I wanted to create, I didn't want to be Pollyanna about it. Ring shouts also didn't abolish slavery. Ring shouts created an antidote to the oppressive system that slavery had put in front of them. So I wanted to create a possibility of creating a holistic space for Black folk and humans in general, knowing that after quarantine, there will be a grief. There will be a sadness that we will have just in gathering at any size or scale, and wanting to create a space that for those who know the sacred algorithm of when I say ring shout, they will be like, they'll lean in with curiosity. And for those who don't know, I'm calling it The Gathering, also brings in some kind of curiosity, right? There are different levels to awakening someone's curiosity. So it's called The Gathering, a sonic ring shout. So we're doing that. We're also working on a couple of outdoor pieces that will happen during the summertime.
Oh, exciting!
Potential with a sucker MC by Mums, who might be in partnership with the Public Theater. It looks like it will be in partnership with Public Theater. And we're also doing a radio play of a brand new of a work that I directed a while back ago, but we were the ones to produce it, called Hands Up. So we're working to do a radio play of Hands Up. Then we have our residents. We have a couple of residents that we are working with, and we're in process of trying to figure out, just trying to see who wants to do outdoor stuff, who definitely wants to wait until we're indoors. Just trying to really figure that whole realm out. And then outside of that, it's just like it is the natural realm of. Oh, and we also have a show that we're working with St. Louis rep, the McCarter, and also a current called Dreaming Zenzele. And we are in the process of doing a rolling world premiere of that work. So it isn't. It's a lot of great things. Oh, and me personally, I'm working on a show with there's still the National Black Theater. I kind of merge all of it together.
Of course.
But we're working with Duke Ellington School of the Arts and being able to go back to my high school, and we're doing a digital commission there.
Oh,
similarly to what we did with NYU, we're going to do with Duke Ellington.
Cool. So you told me that you were just gonna take 2021 off. I love that you are so busy.
That was supposed to be the game plan. I was supposed to take 2021 off. I mean, the thing of it all is my friend, Sade, who is my best friend and like family to me. She was like, you don't know, you only know forward. You don't know back.
Mm-hmm.
So and what makes me invaluable is that as a friend at X, Y, and Z is that my forward is that I'm willing to meet you at your capacity and make sure I'm still moving forward. So like if you only want to take tiptoes, but we need to take a leap, I will make up the difference of that leap. And so sometimes that could be jarring to people. Sometimes that could be very exciting to people. Sometimes people can abuse that. Sometimes people, you know what I mean? There's a double-edged sword to it all. Yet that is what's happened, is that there is an algorithm that's been set, and now it's about meeting now to your astuteness is about now that I know what the algorithm can look like, now that we know what the algorithm can look like, it's about meeting it with the capacity it needs, so that maybe I am doing less, and the capacity is able to show up so that we rise in a certain kind of way that feels a little bit more girthy, a little bit more holistic, a little bit more meaty. So yeah,
it makes sense to me that the person who wrote, like, as a kid, like, I want to steward a space in Harlem, is also the kid that's always moving forward.
Was curious, was Sade the person who you had talked about, who you sat across from, and that person said, like, will you run this? Sade. Awesome.
So Sade, so how Sade and I met is actually quite beautiful. Michelle Shea, who's a venerated artist on Broadway and also director and also teacher, she had seen a show that I directed called Black in the Bubble, that I did at Harlem School of the Arts with a bunch of producing friends and created a producing entity, and they granted me the opportunity to direct a show. Michelle Shea saw it, and she said, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know 100% what's going on, but Spirit is telling me. She said, good job. It wasn't like, I don't know what you're doing. Like,
yeah, it wasn't the first thing. Yeah.
But like, I don't know but I think that the two, you and Sade, need to meet. I don't know if you talk to people at National Black Theater, but you and Sade need to meet. Spirit is telling me you and Sade need to meet. And so I invited Sade. Well, she was like, too cool for school. She was like, who's this 25-year-old, 24-year-old trying to ask me to come see his show? Like, I run the National Black Theater. I got too many other things, too many other fish to fry. And so she didn't get to see the show. And then we scheduled to have tea. And we had never left each other's side ever since that tea. That tea actually created a catalytic, synergetic bond that just, because after the show, I was like, it's similar to your point, Jen. I was like, I'm going on sabbatical. I'm just going on sabbatical. I just produced, because I had to produce it. I have to support the producing of it. I was the technical director, and I also was the director. And sometimes I had to be the costume designer. So I was like, I am done. It was sold out. It was 10 people on the show. It was fabulous. I am done. I am good. People loved it. I got what I needed out of it. I know I can direct, and like, we'll figure it out from there. And then I have this tea with her, and I'm just like, but she's family. I can't leave family.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Again, it's when a butterfly flaps its wings. I love it.
It's really quite beautiful.
We're actually getting close to the end. So I want to invite Ashley to bring out my favorite part of the show, our lovely little Keen question bowl. Ashley, if you want to talk a little bit about this sacred ritual, please do.
Okay, so this is the Keen question bowl. It's filled with totally random questions. I can't see them as I pull them out. They're all just sort of like random getting to know you questions.
Love it.
So it's sort of like a lightning round.
Good.
Okay. Going in at random. Okay, do you have any favorite items that have to be in like your dressing room or your office or your space?
Incense and candle.
Really? Do you have a favorite scent?
Namchanka.
Oh.
I also love rose. Yeah, rose.
Love it. Okay. All right. More to come. Do you have a least favorite chore to do at home? Dishes, vacuum, that kind of thing.
Waxing my floor.
Oh, okay.
Hardwood, I assume.
Yeah, it's hardwood, and when I end up doing, like, I really like wax it. Like, I have to clean off everything. I have to then I have to wax it. And it has to sit.
Yeah.
It's just like it's beautiful when it's done.
Yeah.
but then it doesn't stay beautiful for the length of time that I want it to. So like I enjoy it afterwards, and like my floor is still kind of sheeny, but like it's really sheeny after I wax it. And so like waxing my floor is a whole theatrical production. Like I have to move everything.
I was just like, you ever move it and then as you're putting it back, you like smudge it and you're like, ugh. Yeah.
And if you drop a piece of liquid on it, it's like it's done. It's like over. It's all over.
Okay. Do you have a most used emoji? Or a favorite emoji?
We're about to find out.
Yeah, let's try.
That has never come up out of the Keen Question Bowl so far.
We've never heard that.
Question. I'm
100. The 100.
Okay, that makes sense. That 100.
100.
Yes. Favorite junk food? Or comfort food, whatever you want.
Someone's making fun. Someone's laughing at me about this before. I will get a jar of peanut butter and just eat it directly from the thing.
Okay, favorite. Now you have to tell us favorite peanut butter. Do you have a favorite brand?
It's Skippy.
Skippy.
Chunky, smooth.
Well, it's not. That's not. So what I have done, because I have a sugar, I will eat anything that's in my house that is of sugar. That's really junk food. I don't buy it. So like I kind of keep it. So you said in my home.
Yeah.
So if I'm outside my home, I'll have an almond joy. I'll have a cookie.
Sure.
But like in my home, like I have rice. I have rice. I have rice cakes, and I have like peanut butter, and like you know what I mean. Like I have bananas. Like I just try to. To answer your question, I know that I have an addictive personality, and my if I'm gonna be because of my addictive personality, I try to be addicted to healthy patterns.
You've shifted the.
I totally. And what has helped me to do that is that I would do this cleanse or this fast. It's called the Daniel fast every year, where you take all animal products, all sugar, all caffeine, all leaven for 21 days.
21 days, wow.
And only have vegetables, fruits, and like, you know, just things that come from the earth, nothing that comes from animals. So no honey, anything like that. And ever since then, my addiction to sugar or to X, Y, and Z has waned.
Oh, interesting.
And when I introduce it back in, I get like nausea or something like that. My body just goes crazy.
That's crazy.
So that's why it's peanut butter.
It's peanut butter. Is it smooth peanut butter or chunky?
Oh, no, smooth. No, I don't like that chunky stuff. No.
I'm with you. I can't have that candy in this house. I'll eat it all.
It's just like I wanted to. I use the spoon and everything. It's really kind of bad. Like, what are you doing?
Okay, this is a good one because we haven't talked much about your performing side of your life.
Oh, yay!
Is there a role that you would play again that you loved so much you would do again in a heartbeat?
Oh, that I'll do again in a heartbeat? Is there a role? I mean, it's like you're asking for a role that I did, not a role.
Or like a dream one. That's good too.
I think I always, just for the kicks and giggles of it, the shoots and giggles of it, I always wanted to do like an August Wilson play.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you which one exactly. I think it was Jim of the Ocean. I think it was Jim of the Ocean. But like I always wanted to be a part of like that space because it's just like so revered, and I just wanted to kind of like explore it.
Yeah.
See what it's like.
That's exciting. Well,
as a performer,
one seems pretty free, so just slide in an August Wilson play.
Oh, you know. Have you met me? No, I'm just joking.
Okay. This is tricky. Do you have any dream cast members, people you would love to work with? You've probably worked with so many amazing people already.
No. There's someone. No. Dream. I want to work with the cast of Lovecraft Country.
That is an amazing cast.
That's what I want to work with. I want to work with that cast.
Okay, we're putting it out into the world.
We're putting it out in the universe. That whole cast.
Okay, let's see, a few more. Do you have any favorite audience interactions? Like an audience member came up to you or you heard them say something?
One of the most profound audience reactions that I ever had was after Hands Up. It was the first time that not the first time, but it was but someone in the audience, they had experienced someone who had been slain by the cops, probably a couple of days earlier than that. And they were just hyperventilating. The work had basically unearthed all of that gunk, and then the conversation that we have after every show had unearthed all that gunk to a place where they couldn't actually breathe. And I got to where they couldn't feel like they could breathe. And I actually got to realize the transformative nature of not only the work that we do, but the space that we hold. And the necessity for the space that we hold to provide people the option to stay until they feel whole, complete, and in their body, so that they can, because we are the safe haven that they don't necessarily get to receive outside of our doors.
That's incredible.
Wow. Sometimes we think about affecting just one audience member. That is definitely one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, and I feel like I can guess this one, but I'm not sure. Are you a call or a text person?
I'm a texter.
Really? I kind of guessed that you would be a phone call person.
Oh, I mean, like, you can call me. We'll have a conversation.
Sure.
We'll have a full-on conversation. It'll be
Sure.
meaningful. I think I'm more of a FaceTime.
That makes sense.
I'm really a texter at heart. I'll respond to you very quickly by text. We'll have full-on diatribe by text. But I really like I like FaceTime. Voice, I feel like, well, that's really interesting. I know you didn't ask all these questions. My challenge with FaceTime is that, like, sometimes you're having a private conversation and it's a speaker.
Yeah.
So it's not really private, and then you feel exposed afterwards, and then you realize that they're, like, surrounded by a whole bunch of people, and you're just like, oh, I just totally. While even if they do have you on speaker, being on the phone, you just have this, like, kind of reassurance that's just ear to ear, and it's not out. It's like it's precious, right? So texting. You know, that people can copy that shit all they want, but it's a text.
Yeah.
I'll do a voice memo in a second. That's what I want to say. I'm a voice memo person.
Oh,
I see that. Yeah.
I'm a voice memo person.
That's interesting.
I will send a voice memo in a hot second. I'll be like, talking to my phone.
Yeah.
Now that makes sense. That does make sense. Well, Jonathan, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you for the last hour, and you know, thank you for making time and space to chat with us today. You are always a joy and an inspiration.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited about creating the space. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we will see you again soon, I hope.
Yes, you will. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Jonathan.
So exciting. If you are as excited about the Capital campaign as I think we all are, remember to go to the National Black Theater's website. I'm sure all the information is there, and give them some love.
Yes, it's just nationalblacktheater.org. So
do it.
That was excellent. Oh my gosh. My mic was off for most of it, but I was literally just sitting here just being like,
You're so all in.
Yes. Oh my God.
As always, I feel like we could have talked for like 5 hours.
Truly.
Yep. It's never a dull night on After Hours.
No.
Not even drinking.
No, I know.
We are with conversation.
Right.
Truly. And I love that we got a question that we've never had before in the Keen question.
Finally.
That's exciting. That is great.
The world of wonder and mystery.
Well, next week we have a fantastic guest who I think will also get us drunk on conversation. Great Thomas J. Ryan, who was in Travels with My Aunt at Keen Company, as well as several Jonathan Silverstein productions. Very excited for that next week.
Can't wait.
Yes, I think that's going to be a very fun evening.
I think Thomas J. Ryan has known Johnny for quite a while, so I think we're just going to mute Johnny, and Billy and I are going to get some dish.
I think he could give you some good info.
Okay, great.
I'm very excited.
Coming up this week, because I think this kind of is a big week at Keen Company.
It's Big League King Company. Well, this Friday, February. What's Friday's date?
7 p.m.
February 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern is when the next installment of our Here Now season of audio theater drops. That is Digging in the Dark by Pearl Clegg. Now, you might remember Pearl Clegg from literally anything because she's a very well-acclaimed writer and author. But most recently in King Company, we got the honor of producing the New York premiere of Blues for an Alabama Sky, which is her piece. And she's back. We're lucky to have her back. So her piece of audio theater premieres this Friday on our website, as well as all podcast apps, Digging in the Dark. It's spooky and suspenseful and exciting.
Y'all, I heard another draft of it today, and Taylor Reynolds directed it. She's amazing, and Fan Zhang did the sound design. You may recall Fan Zhang from our production of Molly Sweeney, but anyways, they did such a beautiful job with this amazing cast. It is like 30 minutes that just transports you, and I got chills like the last chord of the music. It's so beautiful, and I cannot wait for people to hear it.
So exciting. So go ahead right now to your whatever podcast app you use and hit subscribe. You can search King Company Here Now, Here, Hear now, and hit subscribe so that on Friday you'll be the first to hear it.
Is that why it's here? H-E-A-R?
Here.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. I truly thought it was a typo. So
I did too. That's so weird. Oh, wow.
Here now.
Okay.
Like a voice memo from Jonathan McCrory. Here.
Right.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us again for another night of After Hours. We'll be here next week. Same time, same place with Mr. Thomas J. Ryan spilling the tea. Not too much on me. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at the virtual theater soon. Good night.